Hey everyone, welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to create interfaces with Python. But first, I guess who this video is for is people that have some basic understanding of Python. So like, you know how to make a function, if check, for loop, that sort of basic stuff, then this video is for you. I'm really planning to explain any more advanced concepts that we might touch upon, or we might not even touch upon those concepts because the basics are pretty straightforward, pretty easy to learn. I uploaded some videos before about teaching Python for Maya artists, and if you followed those videos, then you're exactly at the right point. Though I do recommend you practice your Python a little bit besides just watching the videos, because if you don't have like the muscle memory, then you can get sidetracked about not remembering how a for loop works or how a piece of code is actually operating. So I mean, you can always pause the video, go back and figure things out, but it might be good to have some practice in so you really know what I'm talking about when I'm showing you these things. In addition to that, if you are coding in Maya or like writing a plugin in Motion Builder or maybe even Houdini or something, then you can skip this next step because I'm first going to install some prerequisites if you're just running a standalone Python. So to show you, you can go to C users and then your username. And in there you'll have, if you have Python 3, this is Python 3. You have app data, local, programs, Python 3.7. And then you have scripts. And this is for Python 3. And then let me open up another window for Python 2, which is a lot easier. You go to C and then Python 27 and then scripts. And so Python 3 moved it all the way to here, and then you have may have different Python version numbers here. Python 2 is just in C, and that might also list different version numbers. That's where you'll want to be. And then inside of these scripts folders, you can go to the title bar, type CMD, and hit enter. That opens up the command prompt inside of that folder, which is a nice time saver. And then one of the scripts that you want to run is called pip install PySide 2, and that is going to install the framework that we'll be using. And mine should say that I already have it. Yeah, requirement already satisfied. So that's good. That's for Python 3, and for Python 2 you can do the same thing. Though PySide 2 doesn't exist for Python 2, so you can say pip install PySide, and then you just get that one. There's also PySide 6 nowadays. They skipped a few versions, but I haven't used that one yet. Knowing PySide, it's probably the same. All the code will just still work. But yeah, you could just use that and follow along. But I'm gonna use PySide 2 because I know that best and might, have some minor details that I will gloss over, minor differences that might break things otherwise. So yeah, what is PySide? I will. It's basically a Python package that maps to the Qt framework or Qt framework, and that is a really big tool set that allows you to build interfaces, and it's all cross-platform. So this stuff will work on Linux or Mac or Windows or whatever you want to run it on. I mean, I think it was originally developed for mobile, so I don't know of any mobile operating systems that run Python, but I guess you could even run it there. So let me pull up this little demonstration of what it does. Of course, I'm on Python 3, so I need to change my code. There we go. But this is a quick example of what you could make. Just showing off what is in there. So in Qt, you have all these built-in things, and it looks like the environment that you run it in. So you've got your menus, your buttons, your text, your text boxes, and your drop-downs. You can edit pages of text. You have numbers with decimal points. You can type a point here if you want to have a point in there. So there's also like restrictions on the input you can give. That way you could do, like, for example, a password or a date and time field, which is also built in there actually. You can have sliders, you can have scrolling, you can have groups with names above them. There's tons and tons of widgets that are really useful. that you might already know from, you know, other things that you do. There's tables, there's lists, there's tree views. You can make a file explorer with this fairly easily because all the components are actually already there for you to use, which is why I think it's really cool. It's very versatile and very feature complete. There are so many details about everything, single one of these widgets. I could talk for a few minutes about, like, little features that it has, little niceties that you might want to know about, which I might actually do. I might actually make a long video going through every component and just show off some of the cool features that it has that you might not know. So as a sort of a reference guide, I suppose. But yeah, with that said, let's go and make a quick hello world. I'm going to do this in standalone Python, but also inside of Maya. So people that have followed the Python for Maya artist tutorial, you can, you know, see how to run PySide or Qt inside of Maya, and people that just want to run Python as a standalone, you can do it in whatever IDE you're currently using and just run it. So let's make a hello world qt.py. So for standalone, we just installed PySide 2. I'm going to import Qt widgets. It's going to import everything from that. There's also Qt core, Qt GUI. Worth mentioning is that there's like a bunch of Python Qt wrappers. So you have PyQt 4 and 5, and you have PySide 1, doesn't have a number, and PySide 2. And they all work kind of the same way. Some of them don't have Qt widgets, which is, you just ignore that because everything that's in Qt widgets today used to be in Qt GUI. So yeah, you can just use only those two lines with whatever Python Qt binding that you're using. Then the next thing I'm going to import is sys, and then I'm going to create my main application, the Q application. Qt just starts everything with a Q, which is kind of nice. I'm going to put in sys.argv. Basically, the application wants a list of options that you could provide on the command line. You can just put in an empty list, then you don't need sys, but this is kind of the intended way to use it. I've never really looked into Qt command line flags, but I think you can change like the styling. So now when I run my application, it looks like old-fashioned Windows. And I guess on different operating systems, it will look the way that it's supposed to look on that operating system. But you can override the style with some default built-in styles as well from the command line. And I'm sure you can do more things than that. And at the end, I'm going to write app.exec. And because exec is kind of a built-in Python function, I'm going to add an underscore at the end. Because you're not allowed to name a function exec. So they named it exec underscore. And this is actually going to start the application main loop. So anything after this isn't going to run until Qt closes again. So it's not relevant for us. You can maybe do a print done, for example, just to see what happens there. And then in between here, we have to build our application. You need to make a Q application before making anything else, because some components might not work. And then you build your application here. So I'm going to make a window, just called Q main window. Let's say window.set window title. Just call that hello world. I'm going to do window.show. And if you haven't seen this sort of thing before, I mean, I guess it's the same as a list and list.append, right? You just call a function on the list, but Qt provides you different objects than the ones Python has, and you just call a function on the object. I'll show you the documentation for that in a bit, but first let's run this, see if it all works. That is great. And then let's actually go and run this in Maya as well. So yeah, I'll just rewrite the same little application, but without the requirements that the standalone has, which is the Q application stuff. Just in case you're interested in writing plugins, this might be good. Got like my little script editor here. And then in Maya, I can do the same thing. Import all these things. And then again, if you're in an older Maya, Maya ships with PySide 2. That's why you don't have to install it for here. But if you're in an older Maya, it might have PySide 1 or even PyQt 4. That's the first version they used to have. And they might just upgrade to PySide 6 next. I'm not sure about that. Then it's pretty much the same code. So you do, so window is Q main window. We're not making an application because Maya actually is completely written in Qt. So we're already inside of a Q application and it's already inside the main exec loop. So we don't have to do those steps. We just make a window and say window.set window title, hello world, window.show. That's all you need to do to have a little window right here. One quick tip I'm going to give right now, which is just something worth copy pasting for later, I guess. Is if you change to the Maya main window, the script editor stays up top, but our window doesn't. It sort of disappears behind it all. And to fix that, we need to make this window parented to the Maya main window. And there's a function for that in the Maya API. So I'm just going to write that real quick. Def Maya window. I'm going to create a little wrapper function because the function that Maya provides isn't very useful or very user-friendly because it's built for C++ and not for Python. I have to import OpenMaya UI, mqtutil. So this is Maya API C++ function to get the main window. And then we're going to use, I guess we need to import Shiboken 2. Yes, and then you have wrap instance in there, I think. Sorry, I'm doing this off the top of my head, and it's been a while. All right, so we have this one. If you're using PySide 1, it's Shiboken. If you're using PyQt4, it's SIP. And then in SIP, this is also a lowercase I, which is even worse. There's so many minute changes that don't really matter, but they can really trip you up. This is very Googleable as well, by the way. If you say like PyQt Maya main window, you'll find lots of forum posts describing how to write this function. Exactly the way I'm writing it. So mqtutil can give us a main window. That's going to be a number. And we're going to tell SIP that that is not a number. It's in fact a Q main window. And then we can return that. And that's going to give us the Maya window as a Python object. So let's run this function. I hope it doesn't crash because I made a mistake. Cool. We get a main window object, and then we can actually say when creating a window, the first value we can put into the brackets is the parent. Just split this up real quick. Now we have a window that if we click on the Maya main window, doesn't disappear. So this one, I just always take along with me. I have it in a utilities file. You can copy paste it as well, or you can just import it from your utility library, whatever you like. It's just making your window feel more integrated with Maya, so it's not like this separate thing. Also on the taskbar, this way it's not a separate icon on the taskbar in Windows, but if you do without the parent, then it does become a separate thing on the taskbar. And I guess these two windows can still fight. It's the main window that it's parented to. It's not the script editor, so this will be in front of those. But that's like normal Maya behavior, right? Like if you open a node editor, these two will also kind of fight each other, which is fine. So with that said, kind of wraps up this example. The last thing I guess that's worth showing you is going to the PySide 2 documentation. And this one, I'd already jumped to something else. I think it's Qt for Python 5. This is where you want to be. If you go to the docs, you'll end up with PySide 6, I think. Oh no, you're just in the C+ docs. Okay, so let's just search for PySide 2 documentation specifically. You should find Qt for Python. Then that gives you PySide 6, which is kind of annoying. So if you want PySide 2, you have to like explicitly say Qt for Python -5, which I found hard to Google for. Like I couldn't find this listed on Google. But might be like, you know, location, wherever you are, browser history. Google is kind of clever like that, so might be different for you. Yeah, then I guess there's the main documentation page, and then there's the Python modules. And then you have like Qt widgets, for example. And this lists all of the things that you could create in Qt. So there's so much stuff in there. It's not really worth going through. I'll demonstrate most of the widgets that I find very useful and recur in my daily life. So in the future videos, but for now, let's just look at, for example, Q main window and just see how this documentation looks. So there's all the functions you can do on a Q main window, and we'll probably find that you can show it. No, of course not. The show is an inherited function. Let's see. No, this is not useful. So you can see this diagram where the window has its own functions, but then it inherits the Q widget. And that means that it has all of the functions that Q widget also has. So we go back to the widget list and we go to Q widget. And we're looking for show over here. And then, yeah, this one does have a show function. It's so it's kind of a maze like that sometimes, because there's, you know, base types, which there's so many functions in Q widget that all the widgets will have. You can make a text field and then show that, or a label and show that, and it will just show up as its own little window. Because everything has these functions where you can set the size, the position, all that stuff. And then Q main window just adds more functions on top of that. You can see we have a Q widget and a Q main window functionality added together. And then this is what it adds, which is like set window title is going to be maybe from this one. No, that's also Q widget. I don't know why Q widget has a window title. But I guess like menu bar, that makes more sense. Like a window is the only thing that can have a menu bar at the top. And a normal widget cannot have that. Yeah. Documentation is just, you need to learn to explore this a little bit. There's, things are pretty reasonably named. So if you like search for whatever you want to do, like set size or something, you can probably find some stuff on that. And when you go into it, it gives you more information. So like what goes in there and what are maybe related functions like size hint, size policy, update geometry. And that is actually a confusing thing. I'm looking for set size and I cannot find exactly that. So there's set geometry, which is, this one allows you to set the position and the size in one go. And setting size is actually called resize. So you have to like give it a size or a width and a height. And that's not set size, it's resize apparently. Also worth noting is if you're looking at this, there's always this weird arc underscore underscore one, and then it explains like, oh, what is this arc supposed to be? It's a Q size, which is another Qt object. And then there's another version of the same function, like it looks the same, but then there's a W and a H, and that's two numbers. So it already says here like how these functions are kind of the same, but you can give it different arguments and it will respond differently, or it will work in both ways. The Qt has a lot of that, where Python normally doesn't allow that. Qt has a lot of ways where the same function has different versions where you can provide different values to the function and it will still work. So usually you can just go with your first instinct where you go, I want to say window.resize 800 by 300. Then it's that size, and I can actually, if I move the script editor to the side and the window to the side, I can actually keep changing that because this window is currently live. This variable points to this window. I can just make it 300 wide and it will update immediately, which is kind of cool. But yeah, then there's also a Q size version, which just also works. And you kind of have to get used to reading these documentations. And if you see a function that's confusing, maybe like this, maybe scroll down, see if there's a better one, right? But yeah, I'll hopefully demonstrate a lot of these features in a more convenient format where I'm just going through it in a video step by step. This is great if you've used it once and just looking for a reminder of like, how did this work again? Was it XY or YX? Like, which order do the arguments go in? But yeah, in general, it's not a great learning resource. It's really more of a reference where you're looking for stuff you already know but kind of forgot, right? That's all I've got to show for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction. I'll be sure to make some more videos and try and build some more interesting windows and widgets next time. All right, thanks for watching.